I would like to invite our next speaker, Natalie Pelto. So she is an expert in multi-nutrition certifications and lifestyle integration that specializes in treating children with severe autism, ADHD, and their families. Her focus is on recovering lost milestones through advanced child brain development with nutritional practices to bring children to complete independence. Her mission and vision is to see our future generations thrive and overcome being nonverbal so they can impact the world with their unique gifts. Welcome.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Does anybody else want to do jumping jacks right now? Because I do. It's 4 a.m. in Canada right now, and that's where I'm from, and that's a little bit how I feel. So, where is my little clicker? I have never used, oh, big green button. Perfect. So today I'm going to share my heart with you, I'm going to share my passion with you, and then I'm going to give you and fire hose you with a whole bunch of education and actionable things that you can actually take with you and use with your children that has to do with lifestyle. So I'm Natalie. I have multiple nutrition certifications, but the truth is I have 21 years in healthcare background where I spent 2 decades basically looking inside of the body and seeing epidemic proportions of chronic illness. I have specialties in CAT scan, bone mineral density, and also angiography, so I really do have a great understanding of how the body works, and you'll find out a little bit why that matters when I'm talking about autism in just a minute. Now, in the last decade, I have truly immersed myself in the world of lifestyle and nutrition. And the reason is that I really wanted to share confidently what I'm about to share with you in my personal and professional journey. So this is how my world with ASD started. So my son, at 2 years old, it started, first of all, with a girl who lived the very Western life, so where I had no idea what healthcare or what health was outside of healthcare. I was in my 3rd generation of 3 healthcare professionals, and I had a beautiful little boy that was perfect in every single way. I went into a pediatrician's visit because my son, who once spoke, all of a sudden didn't. I went in there with a thought that I would receive a speech-language referral, and unfortunately, I was given a diagnosis for nonverbal autism. I was told to make preparations that our life would be a series of doctor's appointments, therapies, and many other, well, mostly therapies and doctor's appointments, lots of meetings that I did and cried at every time. And my exposure, and I had a lot of thoughts, I want to share this. Yesterday, I had my entire mind blown because my experience with autism in the past, having a healthcare background, was so different than the stories that I heard yesterday. I had to actually go back to the hotel room that we were at, and I had to really process a lot of these wonderful people who shared their journey and really promoted such a beautiful way of inclusion. My vision of the world with autism was very different when I first went into the world of autism. In healthcare, the only way that I was introduced to autism or any special needs was with suffering. And so in my world of having a nonverbal child, it was very difficult. This is what I like to call the messy middle, and I'm going to share vulnerably a lot of our journey. My son, for example, we know, and if you have a child with autism, you know many of these things. But when you have a child of nonverbal autism, there's a little bit more trauma that comes with that. Eloping is a big one. My son once, when we went to bring him to an excursion, I was holding his hand, and he ran away from me, and he almost got hit by a car at 2. And this was really devastating to me. The stimming never bothered me. The obsessions, though, especially going through transitions to daycare, they were kind of intermingled. My son loved this toy. It was a Woody doll. And unfortunately, they told him that he couldn't have it at daycare. They didn't create that safe environment that I got to hear about yesterday, which was so interesting. And so every single time that we dropped him off, he would cry uncontrollably and have meltdowns. As a parent of a non-communicative child who cannot even answer to his own name, there is no greater fear than if they get separated from you, and that fear is validated every time you see a news article or you see the news where there's been a drowning of a young boy and that boy has autism. So all of these pieces were the life that I lived. We have these feelings as parents of autistic children that we're never doing enough, that they may never have friends or social interactions, and we constantly feel this kind of broken heart and guilt. But I want to share a little bit of hope for you guys, and I want to share a lot of the knowledge of what I have learned over the past decade. The truth is that my son is now, we have a happy story, my son is now so high functioning, he was fully verbal and conversational by 7, he was fully non-verbal at 5.5. So within 2 years, my son was able to become fully conversational. He doesn't even qualify for a diagnosis anymore. Should he ever want one for any reason, I would totally support that. But currently, that is not our journey. He lives a life of independence, joy, love, connection, and fulfilling relationships. He has a social life that's actually bigger than mine, as I'm sure you could tell that I'm a bit of a social butterfly. I love people, and he loves people even more. He's academically brilliant, and this is the craziest part. When we were going through autism, he would bump into everything. His spatial recognition was absolutely horrible, and I thought, well, I'm not too worried about it. Gym's not that important. But now my son plays all these different sports. He absolutely loves it. He plays basketball and badminton, and I mean, my head spins at how many places I have to drive him every day. And he's an empathetic leader. He helps his classmates. And truthfully, his teacher says if he wasn't there, sometimes there would be crickets because he loves to participate so much. But the truth is, how did we get there? How did we get to this space? And the truth is that I spent a decade learning about nutrition, having certificates, when I finally found the one. I'll share it. It's called lifestyle medicine. And I did a certificate with lifestyle medicine. Did you know that physicians can actually be board certified in lifestyle medicine? That's amazing. That means our world of healthcare is changing. It's exciting to me. And so what's really great about lifestyle medicine is it's an approach, a therapeutic lifestyle intervention as a primary modality to treat chronic conditions in adults. And now we're seeing this come down into our kids. And so once I received this certificate, it was like, I don't want to say the stars aligned, but all the dots connected, and I got really excited because I was like, this is what we did. So I'm going to share it all today. There's no secrets. I want you guys to all have access to all of the things that are going to give your children a healthy, thriving mental and physical well-being. And I get to watch lifestyle medicine work for autism families around the world right now. And it's a very new approach, and it's absolutely an approach that is empowering to the mothers in the home. Because often in autism, we feel helpless. We bring our children to their appointments, and then we hope that we can learn a little bit from the therapist that we share with, but we feel at home that we don't know exactly what to do. And this is something that absolutely you can do, and it's going to help your children be able to have better sensory processing disorder, which we're going to dive to in a second. So this is a simple, repeatable process to support your child's body through recalibration of chemistry, rebalancing minerals naturally, just with lifestyle, and then build brilliant brains for a better tomorrow. For them first. It's really all about them. It's about meeting them where they're at. It's about letting them guide us. So what are the 6 pillars of lifestyle medicine? So this is the framework of what I teach. It's all about filling the nutrition gaps and overcoming picky or sensory eating. We kind of go through this like, what came first, the sensory eating, or is it the sensory eating that's causing more autism? There's this like really, or the severe, I shouldn't say more autism, the severity of autism. And the truth is that when you support sensory processing through nutrition, there's a lot of magic that happens. The second portion is actually getting rid of the bad bugs, also known as risky substances. I'm going to talk a little bit about this. Some people are probably going to get some aha moments here. And then, of course, we know that 54% of kids with autism do not sleep well. Hacking our sleep environment is so, so important. Hello friends, connectiveness and longevity are interconnected, and creating safe social interactions is necessary. Bye-bye meltdowns. I'm gonna spend the least amount of time in this space because I feel like so many presentations that I saw yesterday were so built around building resilience in our kids by hacking their environment externally, creating safe spaces. So I totally agree with all that, but it'll probably be the space I don't talk about as much. And then we've got, of course, playing in the dirt, physical activity, and gut microbiome health. So this is how I usually word to parents kind of like this. It's like filling the nutrition gaps and getting smart instead of sassy. Why is food such a huge thing? So many people tell me, why is it, what is it? What is it with the food? And I said, you know, about 40 years ago, our grocery stores did not look the way they do now. If you went into the grocery store 40 years ago, I'd say probably about between 70 and 90%, so 80% of the foods that we were consuming were actually supportive to proper brain development. They were very supportive to the capacity to make receptor sites that could actually, the messaging that we get from sensory processing would happen naturally. And currently, our super-change supermarkets have a complete different effect. About 90% of the supermarket now, unless you're doing the perimeter and you're purchasing whole foods, is actually harmful to the developing brain. Nutritional deficiencies are linked to all diseases today, lots of data. We are extremely, as a society, this is not just autism, as a society, we are extremely plant deficient. And almost all autism children are either picky eaters or sensory eaters, and do not consume the 35 to 50 diverse plants a week that are going to feed a thriving microbiome. For some people, they're like, oh my goodness, 25 plants? How am I ever gonna get my child to eat 25 plants? It's okay, I promise you it's possible. The second portion is to understand that our world is also a little bit more toxic than it used to be. They say that today, we're being exposed to something like what our grandparents were exposed to in 2 years in a week period. That's a lot of toxins. We feel, I think, as sometimes that we need to have this huge Fukushima-like experience, or Chernobyl, or Hiroshima explosions, and it's affecting you in a big way. But the truth is that our world is being taught, we have created, like to put it into perspective, we have created 80,000 chemicals in the last 70 years, with roughly only 5,000 of them being tested for human safety. When the WHO tested umbilical cords of moms, there was over 200 chemicals that came back positive, many of them linked to neurodevelopment cancers and deformities. So those are big stats. We know that when we have a depleted microbiome, that there can be imbalances in microbiota, which means that sometimes we have bad bugs that are actually running the show. Did you know that sometimes the bad bugs actually control our cravings? If you have candida overgrowth, which most autistic kids do actually test high for, it gives you sugar cravings. If you don't get sugar cravings, do you know what you crave? You often crave carbs. So, little aha moments there. That was a big one for me. And we assume that the toxic world is huge, or it's going to be this big event, but sometimes it's just the cleaners that we noticed such a big change in my son's, like, just joy. I'll call it joy, because when we took out laundry detergent, because it's on our skin 99% of the day. You only don't have it on when you're in the shower, and then you have chlorine on you, but I don't want to scare you guys too much today. So what else? So what happens when we get exposed to toxins? Anybody know what an antioxidant is? That's okay, because I'm going to share it anyways. So the truth is that when we have toxins that hit us, our cells, they actually sometimes have this little thing that they become imbalanced. It becomes a free radical. And that's just a fancy word for a damaged cell. So antioxidants are actually like something we make. Isn't that cool? Like, we make those, and then it corrects the damaged cell. But guess how we make it? We have to eat foods that make it, because we make it in the liver after we eat things like blueberries, or we eat things that have grapefruit. And the truth is that in autism, there are many studies that show this, that autism and Parkinson's are actually people are so deficient in glutathione, sometimes they don't even test for it at all. And glutathione is one of the best antioxidants for damaged cells. You can get them from avocados, or you can get it from grapefruit. The next step is better than a baby. What happens when we sleep? So one of the things that's really powerful, there's new systems that have been discovered, and I share about this all the time. You guys have probably heard about the lymphatic system, and if you haven't, it's just a system that runs along our bloodline, and it stimulates our immunity, and it has multiple purposes, but this is not that. So they actually discovered by injecting isotopes into rats that we have another system that actually detoxifies our brain while we're sleeping. So like our spinal fluid will flush through and get rid of all of the debris that we had during the day. Now, it does about 4 or 5 flushes a day, but unfortunately, if we don't have those flushes happening, then that debris stays. And neurotoxins are very prevalent in the world. Food coloring, candy, it's really, really, really something that stays stuck up there. Growth hormones, recovery, they're super essential. And then there's, of course, a circadian clock. Did you know that your entire day, or the entire day of your autistic child, is actually gearing them for good sleep? Sleep does not start an hour before bedtime. Sleep actually starts in the morning when you wake up and your cortisol rises. And then you eat, depending on what you eat, your light exposure, you actually can hack your child's circadian clock and sleep environment and have a completely different outcome within just a few days. It just takes time and practice. And then again, one of the things that's interesting is that picky eating and sensory processing is actually exacerbated by sleep, which means that if you don't have a good night's sleep, you actually crave sugar, salt, and fat naturally. And so your children want more of that. And so it's a vicious cycle. So I love this. Hello, friends. So this is actually my son in the bottom photo. And I'm very grateful for this relationship he cultivated, because the truth is that this was very integral to his ability to adapt in situations. Taking turns. I think I watched Dr. Templeton talk about it yesterday. Taking turns was a big deal. My son really struggled with this too. But this lovely friend of ours would just drag him around, and she was so inclusive. She is a neurotypical child. And so I encourage you with children to actually bring them into situations where they can interact one-to-one. I find group settings were not as successful with my son, but she was so inclusive, you will find that person. And so she was so inclusive, she used to bring him, we called it the buddy system. He would just look on the ground and she would just bring him around different places. It was very cute, but the social media dilemma is another thing. Our children right now, and it's interesting, I learned this stat, so I'm gonna share this. This was from someone in Dubai. There was a neurosurgeon in Dubai who posted in Instagram, he posted a question that said, how often do your children, or how many hours a day do your children spend on social media or on a screen? So the average answer was 2 to 5. And those who answered anything from 5+ said, but my child's autistic. And this is interesting because a study just came out 2 months ago that showed that if you spend any more than 2 hours a day on screens, it actually increases the severity of autism for the symptoms. That's huge. So we think that our children may be on a screen, and then we also have the dopamine reaction that's happening when they're watching YouTube, because we have this like love of scrolling and moving on to the next video. It's just so easy. And so unfortunately, dopamine becomes imbalanced, and it has a huge impact in transitioning to different things to do. And then we have building relationships is actually scientifically supportive of longevity. The truth is that one of the reasons I'm so passionate about autism, because I have treated a lot of people for cancers and different things, but autism specifically is that children who have severe nonverbal autism actually have a life expectancy of 36 years old. And that's not okay. So resilience building. Oh my God, I heard so many amazing things yesterday about resilience building. I learned about really focusing on making sure that environments are safe. And this is something that I truly, truly encourage, is that meeting our children where they're at and letting them guide us is going to be the thing that builds resilience. If they don't have safety, they're not going to do the thing. You're not going to overcome the picky eating or the sensory eating if you do not make that environment the safest thing. I used to call it the mealtime mayhem. Transition to my course is actually like the bring the fun back to mealtime. So it's really important. Now, playing and feeding the good bugs. Exercise in nature. So does anyone know how often or how long a child should exercise? Under 18 years old should be at least 60 minutes a day, which seems like a lot. And I mean, we're not talking about going to the gym, they're not lifting weights, but we're talking about play. And it's really hard because interactions with autistic kids is a little, it looks different, especially now I live in the winter, like we have winter 90% of the time, I swear. So that was a bit of a challenge because I live in Canada, but it is really important. Movement outside will increase the circadian exposures, aromatic compounds. It will help with calming and creating a better environment for your child. Playing in the dirt has also been shown to support grounding and calming. There are studies that show that. And I think it's really important for us to talk a little bit about the microbiome because I've actually been really kind of calm about it, and I do have a gut restoration certificate. I'm sure I don't know if you guys have heard a lot about the microbiome in autism, but the studies that are coming out about helping our microbiome thrive shows huge success in supporting a healthy body. Not just for autism, but for everyone. But the truth is that when you have, and this was like mind-blowing to me, so I hope it says mind-blowing for you, is when I found out that there are 4 messaging pathways from the gut to the brain, and that the vagus nerve, 90% of the information fibers go up and not down, I was like, oh, that means if inflammation is in there, then inflammation is up there. And if we're not eating well, then there's inflammation in there, which means there's inflammation up there. And interestingly enough, the other 3 pathways, do you know where all these pathways lead? They all lead to the amygdala. I think I've heard many times in many talks that the amygdala, the sensor, the place where we have our emotional regulation, but not just that, our memory. I've heard lots of parents talk about memory. How can I increase memory? Good gut health practices will help increase good memory and support the amygdala.
Sorry, Natalie, you have 5 more minutes.
Perfect, because I'm in conclusion. Woohoo! I didn't know if I was going to make it, because I usually do a presentation that's like 2 hours. So, in conclusion, 1 in 36 8-year-olds currently have autism. I wish that they would share that a little bit more, is that 8-year-olds are the ones that are actually kind of the ones that they're measuring. What about everybody under that age? Many of these children are severe nonverbal and non-functioning. I believe, and my current personal and professional journey and experience with working with clients, is that lifestyle medicine can help these children achieve greater independence, reclaim lost milestones, and live the life of their dreams. And really, that's what we want, right? We're hoping for our children to get to live the life that they want, to give them that opportunity. And I see the potential in all the nonverbal children I have the privilege of meeting, the independence within reach, because we can all agree that our children deserve the joyful and fulfilling life they can experience to the fullest. Thank you. And this is all of my contacts if anybody wants to snap up the QR code. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. It's really nice to be here, and we're going to have Dr. Temple with us live right now. Dr. Temple does not need an introduction. Can you tell I'm one of the biggest fans here? But Dr. Richard will introduce her.
No, it's my great pleasure and privilege to introduce Dr. Temple Grandin. Dr. Grandin is an American academician, animal behaviorist, and internationally renowned spokesperson for autism spectrum disorder. Dr. Grandin is one of the first autistic people to demonstrate the insights that she has gained from her personal experience of autism. She is currently a faculty member with animal sciences in the College of Agricultural Sciences at Colorado State University. Based on her experience, Grandin advocates early intervention to address autism and support teachers and professionals who can redirect children and adults in fruitful decisions and directions. She has been an outspoken proponent of animal rights and the neurodiversity movements. In 2010, Temple Grandin was listed as one of the 10 most influential people in the world by Time 100, which named her in the Heroes category. In 2011, she received a double Helix Medal and has received many honorary degrees from many universities, including McGill, Swedish University of Agricultural Sciences, Carnegie Mellon, etc. Grandin has been featured on many media programs. She was the subject of an Emmy and Golden Globe-winning biographical film, Temple Grandin. In 2018, Grandin was featured in the documentary This Business of Autism, which explored autism employment and the success of autism employers. She has been written up in Time, People magazine, Discover, Forbes, and the New York Times. She is best known for designing the Hug Machine, which is a deep pressure gadget planned to calm extremely sensitive people, which are ordinary people with autism. And I know her personally, working with her as a colleague to sequence her entire genome, to read the chromosomes from end to end and make sense of that as to how they caused her condition and how they continue to influence her life. And I'll never forget working with her to do that. And if you're interested in what we found out, come to my lecture tomorrow at 11 something. So introduce Dr. Grandin.
Well, it's good to be here. And also a lot of emphasis on skills like getting dressed, combing your hair, brushing your teeth, eating with utensils. Well, one little tip with these kids, you have to give them time to respond. They're like a phone that's only got one bar of service. And slow down when you talk to them. And when the grown-ups talked fast, it went to gibberish. Can you put the next slide up, please? Now, the thing about autism is it goes all the way from Einstein, who had no speech until age 3, to somebody who has much more severe autism when they become nonverbal. But some of the ones that are nonverbal can learn to type independently. But a brain can be more social emotional, or a brain can be more interested in what they do. And having an interesting career has been very important to me. I'm really happy that I'm a professor. I've got graduate students and I've done a lot of research in animal behavior. I have 3 graduate students that have become university professors. I'm very, very happy about that. So a brain can be more social emotional, or a brain can be more interested sort of in what they do. This is why I think it's important to get kids out doing interesting things. Some of these kids that get addicted to video games, one of the ways to get them off the video games is have them fix motorcycles, have them fix cars. It's the one thing that's worked. They find out that maybe fixing those motorcycles is much more interesting than the video games. And that's something that can turn into a career. And it's a skill that other people want. Let's go to the next slide. Shows a picture of Thomas Edison. He would probably be autistic today. He dropped out of school. Now, fortunately, he had a mentor. And he had a mentor that taught him how to use the telegraph. It's really important for students to get exposed to things. I was not originally in the cattle industry. I got exposed to it as a teenager. And I had very good teachers and mentors, starting with my mother when I was very young. She was always pushing me to do new things. She encouraged my ability in art. I had a wonderful primary school teacher. I had a wonderful science teacher who got me interested in studying with all kinds of interesting projects to do. Good teachers are so important. Let's go to the next slide. There's Einstein. He would probably be in an autism program today. Let's go to the next slide. The next slide up, please. Now, I'm a kind of a NASA fan. And I got 5 years ago, I got a chance to go visit this launch pad. This was like so much fun. And what I learned when I went there is the astronauts, they had we call it the right stuff, but they were people that had Tourette's syndrome, that were dyslexia. They were building the launch pad. They were designing control rooms. There were people there at NASA, really smart people. that were, some of them probably were on the autism spectrum. I've been to many, many NASA sites. And if you look at the old videos of going to the moon, look at the people in that control room. I think there was quite a few autistic people there. And they were really happy that they got to be involved in that project. Let's go to the next slide. Now I've got emotions, but I get emotional over interesting stuff I do. And Voyager spacecraft now is 45 years old. The scientists are in their 80s now. They are still tracking it. They've managed to keep it going. For a long time, they had to work out of a storefront next to a McDonald's, but they kept it operating with no funds. And I can get really into that because it's so cool what they're doing. They're still learning from this spacecraft that's 45 years old. Let's go to the next slide. Yeah, past Saturn, we can go to the next slide. And then you've got the techies down there that keep that antenna going. Yeah, they probably have to do it at 3 o'clock in the morning. I got a chance to sit at the original mission control desk. That was really, really cool. Go to the next slide. Now, let's not get hung up on the labels. Autism is this big spectrum. And the problem with autism is they keep changing the diagnosis. Originally, maybe 30 years ago or so, you had to have speech delay to be labeled autistic. And then they added Asperger's syndrome, where you could be socially awkward with no speech delay. And then in 2013, they merged everything together. And you've got a spectrum that's going from Einstein to somebody that may have much more severe problems. But I can't emphasize enough on working with the little kids, because when I was 3, I looked very, very severe. And we can go to the next slide. I have grandparents that come up to me all the time, and they find out they're autistic when the kids get diagnosed. That just happens all the time. And sometimes adults later in life getting diagnosed helps them with their relationships. But I'm concerned that too many fully verbal, smart kids on the spectrum get so hung up on the label, the parents get hung up on the label, that the kid's not learning basic skills like shopping, learning how to save money, doing laundry, just very, very basic things. Another big problem I'm seeing is not making the transition into the world of work. Work skills are not the same skills as academic skills. We need to start children when they're 11 years old, maybe volunteering at a fruit stand or something like that, where they learn how to work for somebody outside the family on a schedule. Let's go to the next slide. Now that's me having a real fun time at the vehicle assembly building. We'll show another slide. All the cool stuff I got to go do there, like go up on the roof and I wasn't supposed to. That was really cool. All right, let's just get back to the getting important stuff in autism. Let's talk about some basic issues here. Sudden surprises scare. Okay, let's say a child's going to go to a new school. We'll try to visit it maybe before they go there, or look at the website. The other thing that's difficult for a lot of individuals with autism is multitasking, when you rapidly have to multitask. But we've got to get these kids out doing stuff. We've just got to do that. And I was brought up in the 50s, and we used a method, I call it teachable moments. So let's say I took my drink right here, and I stirred it with my finger. That's bad table manners. Now, my mother, instead of saying no, she would say, use the spoon. People think it's disgusting when you put your finger in the cup. She would give the instruction instead of saying no. That was my generation, a method of teaching social skills. And social skills were taught in a much more structured manner than they are today. We need to limit the screen time, the phones and the computers, to about an hour a day. And we need to get kids out doing things. Today, I saw some kids out playing in the playground that's near my house, and that's the kind of stuff that kids should be doing. Let's go to the next slide. So there's the teacher there working with a really young kid. And the thing I have found on very young children's programs, some teachers just have the ability to work with these little kids. Now, if you've got a little kid that's not talking, the worst thing you can do is let them just sit and play with a phone all day. That's the worst thing you can do. You need to get an effective teacher working with them. And I find some teachers have the ability and some don't. Let's go to the next slide. Teaching turn taking. That was done with me with board games. You have to learn how to wait. It's something that's very important for young autistic children to learn how to wait. And we'll go on to the next slide. Teachable moments. We already talked about that. You don't yell and say, stop it. You give the instruction and the reason why. Let's go to the next slide. You need to limit the video games. One of the things that I was not allowed to do when I was in high school was just become a recluse in my room. I was not a good student. I was a terrible student, but I still had to attend to classes. You know, too many of these kids are just getting on the electronics and just staying in their room, playing video games all day, and they're not getting wonderful jobs in the video game industry. And if they were getting wonderful jobs in the video game industry, I'd be a lot more positive about it. But some young adults, again, addicted to video games, the one thing that was successful in getting them off of it was working on motors and engines. And they found out that they were more interesting than the video games. Let's go to the next slide. Now, my mother would always stretch me to do new things, but she always gave me a choice. You know, we could go to this store or that store, or you could do this activity or some other activity. Always giving choices. You can do your homework when you get home from school, or you can do your homework after dinner. Giving some choices. And one of the things that helped me, being raised in the 50s, is we had sit-down dinners. And, you know, my sister and my parents would take turns telling about their day. Unfortunately, in some families, that's not happening. And this was part of getting me to be a lot more social. And you can learn business social. Another thing that was done in my family is when we were 7 or 8 years old, and it was done with most of the families of my generation, is when I was a little kid, I had to dress up in my good clothes when the parents had a party, and I had to serve the snacks. I had to shake hands with them, learn how to talk to them. Really, really good social training. Let's go to the next slide. Let's talk about sensory issues. Sensory issues are really real. And loud sounds like a school bell or a hair dryer or maybe a vacuum cleaner would hurt my ears. Now, one of the ways to help a child to tolerate these sounds is to let the child play with the vacuum cleaner, where they turn it on. They turn the hair dryer on. And when the child turns the dreaded noisy thing on, they often get to where they can tolerate it better because they are controlling it. Now, there's some kids wearing headphones all the time. And the problem is, if you wear headphones all the time, and that's on the next slide, the sound sensitivity may get worse. So what you want to do is have them with you. You can have them in your backpack. So they're with you. They give you control. You've got them with you. But then you try not to wear them. Because I've heard stories where they were wearing headphones all the time and the child got so sensitive, he couldn't tolerate quiet conversation at the dining room table. But sensory problems really are real. Sensory integration methods can be helpful. There's a paper you can look up online that's called Environmental Enrichment is an Effective Treatment for Autism. And it's a method where you stimulate 2 senses at the same time. Maybe touch a warm coffee cup and then smell some aromatherapy. So you're stimulating 2 senses at the same time. And the title of the paper is Environmental Enrichment, an Effective Treatment for Autism. Now, let's say we have a nonverbal older child or adult and problems with maybe destructive behavior or hitting. The first thing with somebody who cannot speak is give them a way to communicate. Not being able to communicate is totally frustrating. Also, you have to rule out, do they have a painful medical problem that they can't tell you about? That's the first thing you need to make sure they don't have acid reflux. I had acid reflux last night because I ate some hot sauce I wish I hadn't eaten. And my stomach was hurting last night. But the sensory overload, if they have a meltdown or outburst in a busy, noisy store, that is probably sensory overload. but we've also got to give them a way to communicate. That is just super, super important. There's a next slide just shows that sensory symptoms are part of the neurobiology of autism. Now, when I was a little kid, they tested me for two things, deafness and epilepsy. Now, I could pass the deafness test, but the problem is my ability to hear auditory details impaired. Like if the grown-ups talk fast, it was when adults talked fast, it's like, that's what it sounded like, because I didn't hear the hard consonant sounds. Like if someone said the word cat and they said it fast, I would hear ah. So my speech teacher would say cat ta, or she'd hold up a cup and she'd say cup pa, and she switched back and forth between saying cup and cup pa. Because if people talked fast, then all I heard were the vowel sounds. Stretch out and enunciate the consonants, and sometimes hearing would kind of cut in and out like a bad mobile phone connection. There's kind of three ways that the brain can have a problem with language. Not hearing the auditory detail, where I'm hearing gibberish, trouble with getting my speech out, expressive. And then the next slide, I talk about echolalic children. And echolalic children, they have good speech and they will recite an entire movie script. But the problem is they don't know what the movie script means. That's the problem. So in Life Animated, what these parents did is this child had memorized Disney movie, and they picked out phrases in the movie that could be used in real life. And then their son started to figure out that words had meaning. So an echolalic kid, you've got to teach them that all this language they're yakking out has meaning. So there's kind of three ways the brain can be messed up. The next slide talks about attention shifting slowness. Now, if I was a computer, I've got a very, very small, I'm an Intel 286. I mean, if you're a computer geek, that's the first chip. But I have huge memory. Attention shifting slowness. This is why you have to give the child time to respond. The next slide shows attention shifting slowness. It's an old Ami Klin slide, and look at how the normal person's looking at the eyes. But the other more important thing in this slide is look at how many times the normal person looked back and forth compared to the autistic person who's trying to lip read. Tension shifting slowness. All right, now let's look at things where this could cause a problem at work. I want to see these kids get employed, and I want to avoid the jobs such as rapid multitasking at a McDonald's takeout window. That would be a very bad job. Another problem is I don't have any working memory. So if let's say I have to shut down the cash register at night at a store, and then maybe 5 or 6 steps, I need to write them down. I need to write the steps down like a pilot's checklist. Long yakety-yak strings of verbal information do not work with me. Let me make a pilot's checklist. Okay, and if you don't want to disclose autism, just say to your employer, pilots need a checklist. I need one too. And for pilots, it's mandatory. In every country in the world, pilots have to use checklists. Now, I'm talking about giving the child time to respond. When I was 5 years old in school, we had a little assignment where we had to name the pictures that began with B as in beautiful. So I called the suitcase a bag, and the teacher marked it wrong. And she didn't give me time to explain that in our house there weren't suitcases, they were bags. And that was very, very frustrating for me. In the next slide, we're going to be talking about some visual problems. I don't have visual processing problems, but some individuals do. And vision might break up similar to a migraine headache. Or this next slide shows an image that's breaking up. Seeing probably wouldn't be a primary sense if that's the way things look like. And this may explain why a number of people that do not speak touch and smell things, because those senses provide accurate information. And we'll go on to the next slide that shows an escalator. Now, in your brain, you have the eyes that work like a camera, but then in the back of the brain, There's circuits that assemble the graphics file for shape, color, motion, and texture. And if there's something wrong with those circuits, print may jiggle on the page when you try to read. These kids are often terrified of escalators because they can't tell how to get on and off of it. So you have a child that hates an escalator. The chances are he has a visual processing problem. And the eye exam may be more or less normal. And if you have a child that can't read, the next slide shows print jiggling on the paper. Try different pale colored papers. Now, this is my children's project book right here. Well, you see the light blue paper color right there. Try printing on the homework and the reading materials on maybe light tan paper, light gray paper, all these different colored papers. That sometimes really works for some types of dyslexia. Just try different colored paper, try different colored backgrounds on your computer, on your laptop, or on the iPad. The next slide, I talk about lighting issues. And one of the big ones now is LED lights that flicker. And one of the ways that you can determine if LED lights are bad is take pictures of them in slow motion. So you want to wave like this, because when you play it back, you want to make sure it's playing back in slow motion. And you're going to find some flat screen TVs that flicker. Now, tablets do not flicker. Most laptops do not flicker. But there's going to be some flat screen TV computer monitors that are bad. And this does not affect all people with autism. But I'm going to say about 10 or 20% may have a problem with seeing flicker of LED lights or on TVs and computer monitors. So what do you do if you have that problem? You go buy a lamp and you find an LED light that does not flicker and you put it next to the desk. And you can buy cheap ones that don't flicker. But this is something that's a real problem. And when I get asked about designing a school or a home for people with autism, I want to make sure we have LED lights that do not flicker. I just learned from a technical specialist that if a TV flickers, it has to do with the internet connection. But this kind of stuff needs to be fixed, and you can just test it with slow motion video. The next slide just talks about some more severe sensory issues. In noisy environments, I am not able to hear because of all the background noise. Cannot hear. And I also cannot follow very rapid chit-chat conversations where people get very social, chit-chatting back and forth very rapidly. I get bored with that. And there's questions coming up about masking. Some of that stuff's just too hard for me to do. But you can always do some business social. Shake hands with people. There are some individuals that need breaks. But sensory problems are real. Let's go on to the next slide. The next slide talks about this environmental enrichment program, where you use inexpensive, cheap things to stimulate two senses at the same time. You're always changing the things that you stimulate, and it's an adjunct or an add-on to other types of therapy. Now, the next slide shows some really wonderful books for that have been written by non-speaking autistics. Now, I really like How Can I Talk My Lips Don't Move by Tito. I had a chance to meet Tito, and he came into a library, and he was flapping and everything. And I wanted to see, I tested him with a really, really strange picture that he had never seen before, and it had an astronaut in a spacesuit riding a horse out in the desert. And I showed that to Tito, and he types really fast, Apollo 11 on a horse. Another good book's Carly Fleischman's, Arthur Fleischman's Carly's Voice. Then you got The Reason I Jump, the sequel to The Reason I Jump. I like the sequel. It's a better book. But I'll give you a little tip about the typing. Remember the problem with attention shift. Okay, like on this desktop, my keyboard's way down here. But when I type, that print appears way up here on the screen here, and the keyboard's down below where the video is. Now, many people with autism cannot make that attention shift. And that's the reason why you want to use a tablet, because the virtual keyboard, with using that virtual keyboard, the writing appears right next to the top of the keyboard. or you're going to have to, on a laptop, put the keyboard on a box, and you need to make sure it's a monitor that does not flicker. This is really, really important. Next slide just shows some brain scans. And the point I want to get across right there, different parts of the brain get turned on when you do different things, like seeing things, hearing words, thinking about things. And where there's a problem in autism is in kind of the inter-office communications. And what you tend to get is uneven skills. Like I'm really good at art and mechanical stuff. Somebody else might be really good at mathematical stuff. And we'll just show some more pretty brain scans. Next slide shows, oh, that's my skull. Let's show the next slide. That's the microbiome. You see the little tiny hairs there. Those are axon tails, and they form great big inter-office communication cables between different parts of the brain. And then I can show you a slide without my ugly skull. And that's the connectome is much prettier when it's by itself. The next slide shows the circuit in the brain for speak what you see. Now there's the normal control right there, and I'll show you mine. Next slide. That's my speak what you see. And I have all these extra branches for visual thinking, but I have less fibers for speech. So that might explain why I had trouble getting my speech out. But when I had speech therapy, it increases the bandwidth on the fibers that are still left. And the next slide just shows that. But this is where the therapy made a difference because I had trouble getting my speech out. Let's go to the next slide. Now, for speak what I hear, I am definitely not an auditory person. I am definitely a visual person. And we'll go on to the next slide. And I want to talk about the importance of developing strengths. That's an artwork I did when I was about 6 or 7 years old. Mother always encouraged my ability in art. It's a picture of a wooden dock or deck that was by the beach. And she always encouraged my my art. And the next slide just shows a picture a young child did in 3-dimensional. Most little kids don't do that. And I would just draw the same horse's head over and over and over again. So mother would broaden my skill. Let's draw the stable. Let's draw the saddle. Or if you have a child that likes cars, let's read about cars, do math with cars, draw pictures of different cars. In other words, broaden that fixation. Broaden the fixation, especially if it's something like cars, that can turn into a career. The next slide just talks about the art ability being encouraged. Often we'll have uneven skills, really good at art. I was actually terrible at mathematics, but then you're going to have another autistic person that's good at math. And we'll go to the next slide where it shows that the way I think, it's videos in my head or movies in my head. I'm what's called an object visualizer. And in my new book, Visual Thinking, The Hidden Gifts of People Who Think in Pictures, Patterns, and Abstractions, I discuss 3 different kinds of thinking that you can have in autism. Most people are mixtures of the different kinds of thinking. But in autism, you might get an extreme object visualizer. That's me. And the HBO movie shows how I think. My kind of mind's good at art, mechanical things, photography, working with animals, absolutely terrible in mathematics. And then you have the next kind of mind is the visual, spatial, mathematical mind. And the mathematical mind thinks in patterns. And then you have people that think in words. And it's important to, kind of know how the child thinks. That just shows eclipse shadows where the eclipse, the trees made little tiny eclipses like a pinhole camera. That happened on our campus. I noticed detail. I watched a whole bunch of students just walk over that. They just didn't notice it. But I noticed visual detail. The next slide shows 2 things that can bother cattle, like seeing a car through the fence, seeing a piece of red string, seeing a bottle there that might move. Little things that people don't notice. Also in autism, there is there's some better ability to pitch discrimination. There's been a lot of research that shows that these sensory things really, really are real. And the next slide shows one of my cattle handling facilities. And how did I sell my work? One of the things I did to sell my work was to show off pictures of things I had designed. And one thing I really liked in the HBO movie is that it showed my actual projects. It also shows how I think in pictures. It's very, very accurate on that. And I can say that the geek side of me really liked that. The next slide shows a recreation of one of my projects in the HBO movie. I thought that was just so cool. I really, really liked that. The next slide shows starting on my very first project. Now, I had some good mentors in the construction industry. On my first project, the Swift plant in 1974, I criticized some welding and I said it looked like a bird had poo-pooed on it. And that was pretty rude. And the plant engineer pulled me into his office in private and said I had to apologize for that rude kind of talk. He told me what I should do. And then another person that helped me was a small contractor, steel and concrete work contractor, who had seen my drawings and seeked me out. And for 10 years, we built projects together. And so those are on a construction site, some of my early projects. And some of the most fun stuff I ever did was working in construction. And I worked with a lot of people that were probably dyslexic, ADHD, or autistic. Some of these people owned big companies where they made mechanical equipment. They had lots of patents. I really put the emphasis on the career. This is what's made life happy for me, is having a fulfilling career. The next slides just show some of my drawings. And when I showed people my drawings, they were impressed. That's how I sold jobs. Okay, let's work on what are we going to do about job interviews? Well, a job interview for me was lay the drawings on the table and show off the drawings. That's what I did. And they'd look at my drawings and go, well, in fact, actually today, now that everything's computerized drawings, I'm seeing some very bad drawings. And now the next drawing shows a dipping vat system. And you can see on the concrete work, I have all the reinforcing rods drawn in there. 4 years ago, I got a really horrible set of drawings that the engineering firm had done on a computer, and they hadn't drawn in the reinforcing rods. And I marked them all in pencil, and I said, you go back to that engineering firm and get it done right. This is a piece of equipment I developed for the meat industry called the center track restrainer system. You can see a lot of complicated steel work there. And one of the people I worked on this was autistic, undiagnosed. Special ed department builds the stuff. And we need these skills. We need to find back doors into jobs, where you just kind of bypass the interview and get jobs. Well, a friend that has a store and maybe they'd be willing to work with the kid. I think I'm going to stop there. You can have the rest of the slides because I'd like to do questions. And I've already talked about some of the most important stuff, but what you see right there is high-end skilled trades. And I was very interested. I went to the Steve Jobs Theater right before COVID shut everything down. And the glass walls came from Italy and Germany. And the carbon fiber roof came from Dubai. That's very, very high-end skilled trades. That's something to be proud of. All right, let's get some questions going right now. Hope I'm going to get some questions. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, let's get some questions.
Yeah, just a second.
Hi, my name is Sona. I have a son. He is nearly 8 years old. And I always have this question because I'm a big fan of you and I know you know a lot about autism and animal behavior. So I wanted to ask, what's the connection between visual sensory preference as my cats and my son? They both like similar toys and they have similar visual preference. Is there any link?
Does your son speak?
He is speaking, but he is not like having any big vocabulary. So he has very short vocabulary and has sensory issues.
Does he have a decent way to communicate? Even something out like one of these computerized things that will speak, or a picture board or something for him to communicate with?
No, we never use like visual pictures like PECs. We never use those. So we encouraging him to use more spontaneous speech, and you know, the speech therapist, the ABA therapist, all of them, what they recommend, we follow that.
Well, if he can learn to speak, then you don't need to use PECs. But
Yeah.
if you have a child that has like 3-word vocabulary, and he's 8 years old, we need to give him another way to communicate more easily. And that, I can remember the frustration when I couldn't communicate, and I remember that, I showed you that picture of the bicycle in the suitcase, and it was so frustrating when the teacher didn't give me time to explain that in our house suitcases were bags. And I didn't understand the concept of the letter B, the sound of the letter B. But there's a point where they need to get a better way to communicate.
Yeah,
Some kids can use sign language. Some kids there's various programs you can get for tablets.
Yeah, the thing is, he started talking just before he gets 6, so it's really delayed. So that's why.
But is he starting to talk? Are you getting more and more language?
Yes, yes, and more
Okay.
clarity. Like, it takes time, like it's a step by step, but we had him from severe autism. Now he is in between low and moderate autism.
Okay,
So
well,
in the
that's
spectrum.
good. If you're getting progress, parents
Yeah.
always ask me about different programs. I said the most important thing is you're getting progress.
Yes,
Now, if
we
you're getting progress right now, then you're doing the right thing.
Yes, the only problem I'm struggling is his memory and his sensory problems. That kind of restrict him to learn more and focus on task and academics, and he's better in maths. As you said, there are a few types of visual learners. He is more into maths and numbers rather than alphabets and reading.
Well, you see, because I said there's a visual kind of autism, that's me,
Yeah.
but there's also a mathematical. There are kids that are very mathematical.
He is
They
visual
think
in maths, but he's not very visual in, he's not into reading that much, but he's better in maths, like counting and numbers. He's really good with numbers.
Well, that's good. Then maybe you can move him ahead in numbers. How is he at things like getting dressed, bathing, these kinds of things?
He is very independent. Wherever I taught him, is very independent.
Good, good. That's good. He's learning those skills.
Yeah, he is even better than my other children, like neurotypical ones. So he is more independent than them, and he understands routine better than them. The only problem I have, I can't find his special skill. He really likes music, and he is very athletic. He does parkour, he does swimming, he does cycling.
Well, good. He's very athletic. That's good. And see, the problem you got with autism is it's such a wide spectrum now. Let's say you take a diagnosis like dyslexia. Okay, that's problems with reading. Or ADHD, you tend to detention. It's a much narrower diagnosis, and this is the problem we've got. We've probably got half of autistic kids that have a special skill, and there's going to be some that don't really have a special skill.
Yeah, he has autism, ADHD, and dyslexia, all three, and Erlin syndrome.
Well, the Erlin syndrome, have you tried the Erlin glasses?
Yes, I myself, I qualified as well. I just took the course, so I can keep checking on him. Yeah, we got the glasses.
Well, the other thing I find that works also for people that have Erlin syndrome, I talked about the colored paper.
Yeah, we do use.
So you're
Yeah,
doing
we
that
do
on the
use. All of
overlay.
his notebooks are turquoise.
Well, like I've got a tan shirt on right now, and that would be one of the colors, the light tan like this shirt. Some people like that, and then other people, they like this light blue that's on my children's project book.
Yeah, that light blue, that's the thing for him,
Light blue,
calms
like
him.
my tie.
Yes, it calms him.
It needs to be the pale colors.
Yeah.
Not dark blue, light blue.
Yeah, I changed
Light
those, but
black.
he still have visual sensory problems. So is
And
there
what
any
about-
connection?
Now, what about sound sensitivity?
Sound sensitivity he has, but I kind of always give him that opportunity. Like you said, he's in charge of hair dryer.
Okay.
He's in charge of hand dryer. You know, when we go to cinema,
Yes.
at the beginning he was very hesitated, but then he got used to. Now he is properly sitting like other children. So I kind of make him to be prone to that, and he's used
Well,
to it.
that's good that you see him and making him, see when the child turns the hair dryer on and off or the vacuum on and off, where they control it,
Yes.
that to desensitize some of that.
Yeah, but still I'm struggling with his memory and his visual sensory. Like my cat and him, they prefer the same toy. You know what I mean? Like he will kind of keep doing with that, playing with that toy, even though he has 1,000 other toys. But
And
his
how
preference.
is it taking turns at a game?
He was not good. He was having meltdowns. He would get angry. But I kind of desensitized him with that as well, like on the cues of airport, like slowly by rewarding him using ABA techniques.
Well,
And
and you don't have a surprise at the airport. You know, like you can watch videos and I found that one of the things that I got afraid of them, if I made them interesting.
yeah, exactly. That
Make
sports.
What one parent did about the hand dryers in the bathrooms, they went to the websites of all the manufacturers of the hand dryers, and then they got interested in how they worked, and they collected all the websites of hand dryer manufacturers. No, seriously, this actually helped.
Yeah, it's the same with him. Wherever we start with, like even food diet, we started with him. At the beginning, he didn't like. Now he loves healthy, clean food. He wouldn't eat rice. Before, he was addicted to all these carbs, rice.
Oh, yeah, it's bad.
Now he
And
wouldn't eat.
I get worried that some of these kids with these restrictive diets are going to get the old vitamin deficiency diseases. There was a horrible case where a kid got scurvy, which
Yeah.
is vitamin C deficiency, because
Yeah.
the diet was so restricted. Maybe we need to get somebody else to ask a question. I want to give somebody else a turn.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Hi, good morning and nice to meet you. You made a point about people who don't speak much, they're more on touching and smelling things. And I just wanted to know how can that be helped and how can they be helped to speak better?
Well, if you read, I really recommend that you read Tito's book, How Can I Talk If My Lips Don't Move? It is available in an electronic book. I checked Amazon recently, it is available. And he talks about vision being scrambled. Also, the Japanese boy in the sequel, which I think is a better book, he talks about being like a broken robot and having problems with controlling his movements. And if you have an older child or an adult that's either non-speaking or very poor speaking, I really recommend these books because it gives the inside view of their issues. And I don't have scrambled vision. I see just fine. You see, this is where autism has all these variations. But some of them get scrambled vision, and then smell and touch actually work. Those senses are giving accurate information, so then they tend to use them since they work.
So the wish.
I really recommend, really recommend those books. I've got a PDF here. I'll just hold up that slide again of those books right there. If you have an older kid or an adult that doesn't speak, those books are going to give you so much insight. They type independently. Nobody's holding their wrist or their arm. They type completely independently, and they describe sensory scrambling. Now, I don't have this. I have sound sensitive. And then there's some, I had a student that had a problem with print jingling on the page. But see, this is where the sensory stuff is so variable. This is sensory problems a lot worse than mine is.
Good morning. My question is how to teach taking turns. There is a child, 8-year-old. He struggles with taking turns. He can't wait. while
Well,
playing.
that was the reason why when I was 3, we spent a big part of my therapy was learning how to wait and take turns at games.
Yeah, how do I teach? How do I do it? Like there, sometimes there's a video activity happening, and there are 3 kids. One after another, they can watch their favorite video clip for maybe 5 minutes. But he can't wait for others.
Well, let's do something where it's shorter than 5 minutes, like a board game. We played a lot of Parcheesi, which is a very simple board game where you shake little cups with dice in it, and you move little wooden pieces around on the board. And I remember grabbing that cup, and Mother said, "You got to wait for your sister to take her turn." And something where it's not 5 minutes. Let's do some turn-taking thing where it's, like
1
you take a
minute.
turn in Parcheesi takes 10 seconds.
Okay, so
to
I
shake
start
the
with
dice.
10 seconds the first activity should be very short.
Well, but the thing is, my speech teacher that I had years ago, this would be like 1950,
Okay.
she just knew that teaching the kids how to wait and take turns was super important. My therapy had a lot of emphasis on that.
All right.
How to wait in line. Okay, you're at the supermarket and you've got to wait in line. You can't cut to the front of the line. And that's also turn taking.
The child is able to wait in queue, but only taking turns when there's a person who is talking to him. He finds it difficult. In queue, nobody is speaking to each other. They are facing the other way, so he finds it very easy to wait in queue. But he has.
Okay, so you wait queues, okay.
But when he has to play with other children or he has to watch a video and wait for that time, he feels that he's not given his. He's not having control on his activity. I don't know what is the exact feeling he has.
Well, you might try different things. When we were kids, we did a lot of relay races where you'd take turns running and kicking a ball or something like that.
Yeah.
Try some different things that involve taking turns. Now, if you're watching videos, one thing I'd recommend is the phone be physically passed.
All right.
The phone has to be physically passed around.
Thank you so much.
The taking turns means the phone has to be given to the other person and passed around if you're doing something on a phone.
All right.
I think that's going to help on the taking turns.
Thank you so much.
Okay, well, maybe we can get another question.
Hi, Doctor. Nice to meet you today. In the last 5 years, we're hearing somebody tell autism causes by TV. I want today listen in your opinion.
Caused by what? I didn't hear you.
TV. Television. TV.
Autism is caused by television?
Yeah, so somebody tell that.
No, autism not caused by television. But if you let a child spend 10 hours a day watching television, that's bad. And it'll probably make the autism worse. We need to be getting them out and doing things. No, but television does not cause autism.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you. I'm Eleonora. I want to ask you, what do you think about the connection between language and motor coordination? Is it important to improve motor coordination in autistic children, to improve also language? What do you think?
Well, there's some really interesting things that's happening with horseback riding. And I've had parents tell me that their kid did their first words on a horse. Now, there's 3 things that happen on a horse. First of all, riding horses is really fun. Yeah. But the other thing is you have to balance and there's rhythm. You're doing balancing and rhythm at the same time. Now, occupational therapists and sensory integration might get you on a swing and do some of the same thing. But when you stimulate the vestibular system with balance and rhythm, that can be real helpful. Another simple thing that might work is you nail a board to the floor, and then you have the person walk, what I call walk the tightrope,
Yeah.
like this, along a board that's nailed to the floor. I mean, it's only like that far above the floor. But you do these activities that stimulate the cerebellum,
Yeah.
things like swinging. There's a paper I worked on years ago with Lorna King, and the child, they had him on a swing and they were working on speech. And there's some good things with the motor and speech. And the thing that's not known is which kids respond to this. You see, this is the problem with any of these sensory things. You know, it works on one kid and another kid it doesn't work. Okay, I worked on my squeeze machine. Some kids respond to deep pressure, other kids don't. This is where the sensory problems are real variable. But some individuals, they do swinging, balancing, rhythmic activities, that can help on speech. For some individuals.
Okay. We can use also music, for example,
Yeah.
rhythm.
And
That is
music
very
can
important.
be helpful. The other thing is there are some individuals that can sing words before they speak them.
Yeah.
Singing is on different brain circuits. So they could sing the words rather than speak them.
And
sometimes that works.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Grandin, for wonderfully sharing your insights as an autistic person. One thing that has caught my eye is that your parent, your mother, played a very key role in
Absolutely. And then another book you might find helpful, I got a book called The Way I See It that's I got a lot of little short articles in it. It's available on Amazon. That might be helpful.
Thank you. Yeah,
I also have a lot of information on website, templegrandin.com. There's templegrandin.com. There's lots of free information on that.
Thank you. So I'm a mother of triplet boys with autism. They are 11 years old, all different. They are all on a different spectrum. And one is still nonverbal. And all my sons are really not academically gifted. And there's one thing you have mentioned, that you're really fortunate and happy that you have a wonderful career. Now, I would like to request if you can share, one word or a direction to us parents. Often we find that we want to follow the typical growth, go to kindergarten, go to primary, go to high school, go to university, get a job, get married, all that. But most of our children with autism don't really seem to fit there. What can you tell us?
The thing, you have uneven skills. I'm a big believer in getting children exposed to lots of different things. I did all kinds of things when I was a child: cooking, sewing, woodworking, art, music. I was taught musical instruments, and I was terrible at musical instruments, but good at art and mechanical things. And so you expose kids to lots of different things, then you can see what they are good at. But I know, like you look at this equipment here, I've worked with people where a single welding class led to building things like what's shown in that picture. And then another kid, it might be mathematics and programming. Some you have to expose them. And then you've got people with autism that are not going to be building equipment, they're not going to be doing mathematics and programming. Let's say if a kid is good with numbers, well then show him other mathematical stuff. Here's some really cool pattern stuff right here I found in one of my science magazines. With those patterns, they all have mathematics behind them. Isn't that cool? In a science magazine.
Yeah.
There's some kids that are going to just, they may be gifted in that. You see, this is the problem. You're really good at one thing, sometimes really bad at something else. And the people that build the equipment, like you see there, complicated stuff, most of them could not do algebra. It's all pure visual thinking. But they're building stuff like that.
Thank you.
I had a chance to go on a corporate jet the other day. The guy that took one welding class, he builds entire beef plants, and he just has them memorized in his head. a single lowly classroom. He's building entire beef plants.
Unfortunately,
Now,
we're running.
he's not autistic. He's not autistic. But I did work with several other people in metalworking that I'm pretty sure were autistic.
We're out of time now, so we're just going to have one more question. I know that we would. One more question.
Hello.
Midnight or whatever, I'm going to go to bed. But I'm really glad that I was able to get up and talk to everybody and free give the videotape around to people. There's more slides in this deck. We can go ahead and give people the whole slide deck. It just wasn't time tonight to show all the slides.
Hello, Dr. Grandin. Thank you so much for the presentation. My question is, right now I'm working as a general practitioner, but when I was a teenager, I had a distant cousin who, at that time, he was 7 years old. He has symptoms of aggressive behavior and at times, but most of the times he's a very quiet kid. He won't interact much and everything, but the aggressive behavior is the key point, like it's almost disruptive. And later on we diagnosed he has autism. But
how old was he when he was doing the destructive behavior?
At 7 years old. And because of that, his whole family also have a history of mental illness, like other mental illness. It's stigmatizing, it's so traumatizing for all of them, especially the boy. So how to deal with autism children with aggressive behavior?
I had aggressive behavior when I was 7. There was a penalty for it. There was no television for one night. For aggressive behavior. The other thing you have to look at, what is bringing it on? Is there a problem with frustration with communication or with sensory overload?
Communication.
We've got to make sure he doesn't have if the child is non-speaking, then you always have to make sure you do not have a hidden painful medical issue, like maybe an ear infection, urinary tract infection, acid reflux in their stomach, a toothache, something that's hurting that they cannot tell you about.
I think he had meningitis. He had meningitis.
I also problems with things like getting aggressive when I was a child was worse when I got tired. Well, I had a pretty good sense of when she needed to just say I need to go to my room and like just calm down. But when I was 7, I was fully verbal and there were consequences for aggressive behavior. No TV for one night. And then I threw a big tantrum. Mother would put me in my room and let me calm down for half an hour. And then she'd say, well, you know the rule. You join the family now. But there'll be no television tonight. And I understood consequences, but I think there's some individuals where they may not make the connection between the tantrum they had at school and no television that night. See, this is the problem you've got with autism. You've got such a big range.
Okay, I think that was.
And then you've got the autistic. You see, the people that I worked with that had the metalworking shop and all the patents, designing equipment, they would have been more than Asperger type. There would have been no speech delay. You see, this is where that Asperger type with no speech delay now has been merged in with the autism with speech delay. I had speech delay, so I was definitely not the Asperger type. And the people that I worked with professionally in metalworking would have been the Asperger type. But they had social issues. I'll never forget one of the jobs, I had to drag the guy out of the shop because before he got picked the plant engineer.
We're out of time now. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And it's my honor to introduce Dr. Alok Sharma. Dr. Alok Sharma is the professor and head of the Department of Neurosurgery at LTM Medical College and Hospital in Mumbai, India. He is also the director of Neurogen Brain and Spine Institute and KLS Institute of Anti-Aging, both in Navi, Mumbai. He is the president of the Stem Cell Society in India and Vice President of the International Association of Neurorestoratology. He has published 172 scientific papers, authored 24 books, contributed chapters in 19 textbooks, and made over 200 scientific presentations. He is a world-renowned pioneer in the field of cellular therapy for neurological disorders, having treated more than 12,000 patients from 75 different countries. His landmark accomplishments include the publication of the world's first scientific paper on the role of cellular therapy in autism. He has revolutionized the management of neurodevelopmental disorders with his innovative combination of cellular and integrative therapies. For this, he has received several international and national awards, such as the Rose of Paracelsus Award from the EMA Oxford 2016, the European Award for Best Practices, Brussels 2018, the Bharat Gaurav Award, London 2019, the Newton Universal Legendary Award, Boston 2022, the Sino-Phil Asia International Peace Award, Manila 2023, etc. Let's welcome Dr. Alok Sharma.
This is truly amazing. To be in Dubai, to be at this wonderful international conference for autism and neurodevelopmental disorders, but most important, to be able to give a talk immediately after Temple Grandin. What an honor. I had never thought in my life that, one day I'd be speaking after the legendary Temple Grandin. Temple, you're just so amazing. You're not you, your life, your thoughts, your work, your effort is not just an inspiration to people on the spectrum, to their families, but to all of us caretakers, researchers, and doctors in the field as well. So I'd like to begin by thanking Temple for the wonderful and amazing talk that she just gave. I'm going to speak on a new topic, that's regenerative medicine in autism spectrum disorders. When I give a talk, I like to begin with this picture. This is a painting, a huge painting, the size of this entire wall, which I found in a hospital in Howlin, Taiwan. And when I entered that hospital, I asked them, why is this picture here? They said, this is a picture of Lord Buddha going into the jungle to heal. And they said the job of the physician is to reach out to people who are in suffering and heal them. So that's what we have to do, reach out and help those in need of healing. Now, if you look at the increasing prevalence of autism, it is actually unbelievable and incredible that the world has not taken notice of what's happening. You look and see in 2004, the incidence was 1 in 166. In 2023, it has become 1 in 36. At this rate, in the next 2 decades, every third child will be on the autism spectrum. Okay, this is something we as medical professionals need to bring to the attention of society, of people, of governments, of administrators and rulers, that this is unprecedented and that the facilities to take care of these children do not match up to the increasing incidence. There are about 70 million kids on the planet. That's 1% of the world's population. It's like a huge percentage of people. So the current situation is that, you have a child who has some symptoms, the parents notice, you go to the doctor, therapist, get a diagnosis, and they say what you can do is therapy, you start the therapy and you're back to where you were. So what's new? What am I going to be talking in this talk that's different? First, the concept of neurodiversity. And this is what Temple spoke of, okay? That we have to see how people on the spectrum are diverse, that they are not less than, they are different, that they have uneven talents and skills. So the concept of neurodiversity, because now there are going to be so many people on the planet that you can't look at them in the way that we've been looking at them earlier. The other exciting thing, and I'm going to highlight that, is a better understanding of what's happening with the brain. And this is what has changed everything. Then the whole concept of neuronal regeneration, that it is possible to regenerate the brain that's not functioning as well. And the concept of multidisciplinary management, and of course the main base of my talk, which is cellular therapy. Now, what is new is that for the first time in medical history, we are now understanding which parts of the brain are functioning differently from neurotypical brains. And we have done scans, we've done a lot of research in this area, and you can see that list: the amygdala, the hippocampus, the parahippocampal gyrus, the cerebellum, the caudate nucleus, the mesial temporal lobes, thalamus, superior and middle temporal poles. So we've actually identified very clearly which parts of the brain are functioning less. We've also identified which parts of the brain are functioning more. Our focus so far has been on what these children can't do. What we also need to look at, which parts of their brain actually are functioning more than what neurotypical people do. And there are actually parts in the calcarine fissure, the Heschel's gyrus, cortical frontal areas that function more. They are hypermetabolic. So we need to understand this as well. And our work has been published in a landmark paper, among the first of it, it's in published literature in the World Journal of Nuclear Medicine, where we've clearly highlighted which parts of the brain work less and which are working more. Now, what we found here, and this is the only thing that we need to give attention to, because Temple again keeps talking of early intervention. She keeps talking about early intervention, and I'm going to show you the scientific base of the need for early intervention. And that is this. If you look at this graphic, you will see that, you will see that the brain metabolism over the years keeps on declining. So what you see in light green is how the brains of neurotypical kids, the brain metabolism keeps on increasing. Whereas children on the spectrum is the light blue, you can see it keeps on declining. What does this mean? It means the earlier we treat the children, the early intervention is there, the better results, because the later you treat them, the hypermetabolism is actually increased. So the old thinking was that once the brain is damaged, you cannot regenerate it, and the new thinking is it's possible to regenerate the brain through cellular replacement and repair. The other thing that has changed in autism is the concept of multidisciplinary management. So far what would happen is a person specializes in something and then that's all they would offer. So if you're a center that has occupational therapy, you focus on occupational therapy. You have a center that does speech therapy, you focus on that. But what is the need is a multidisciplinary management, which includes everything, all the things listed, and cell therapy, which I will talk about, is one of them. So there is no one silver bullet. The management of autism will be multidisciplinary. So look at that. On the left-hand side, you see a fractured bone. And I ask yourself, will you give rehabilitation to a person with that fractured bone? Would anybody give physiotherapy on a broken bone? Now look at the left. You go to an orthopedic surgeon, you get it fixed, don't you? And now you give rehabilitation. But in autism, we do exactly the opposite. On the left-hand side, the blue area is the hypermetabolic brain. We are giving rehabilitation on a brain that's not functioning optimally, and then we are expecting results of a normal brain. It won't happen. But through cellular therapy, you can see on the right-hand side, the brain has started functioning again. Now, if you give rehabilitation, you are bound to get better results. So cell therapy is a promising new modality where you use healthy cells to replace damaged cells. So that's the brain damage, and you can see that there is recovery. So now look and see what are stem cells. So the word stem comes from the stem of a plant, and just like from the stem of a plant, you can have leaves, fruits, everything else. There are some cells from which all the other cells arise. So the way stem cells work is they multiply, they convert into other cell types, they improve the blood supply, and they release certain positive growth chemicals, and because of that, they repair, they regenerate, and they replace damaged tissue. Cells are of two types. You can be autologous, when you take from the patient, put it back in the patient, or donor cells, when you take it from somebody else. There are different types of cells. You can get them from the embryo, but this is very controversial, so we do not use it. You can get them from the umbilical cord. You can get it from the patient itself, from the bone, and that's what we use. They are called adult stem cells, and induced pluripotent stem cells are in the research stage. So we work with adult stem cells because they are safe, they don't form tumors, they have no rejection, they are easily obtainable, and there are no ethical issues. There are different ways of injecting stem cells. You can inject it intrathecally into the spinal fluid, that's what we do, or intravenously, intramuscularly, through the nose or directly into the brain. How does cellular therapy work? We know the main problem in autism is there is hypoperfusion, decreased oxygenation, and problems with the immune system and inflammation. Cell therapy works through both these mechanisms. So here is a small video showing the 3 basic steps. What we do a bone marrow aspiration with a needle, separate the cells and inject it back. The whole process has only 2 needle pricks. Let's look at a video. There you can see with the needle we are aspirating bone marrow. That takes 15-20 minutes. The bone marrow is put into machines. It separates the cells, and once the cells are ready, with a very thin needle we inject it back. Just 2 needle pricks. And we take cells from the child and put it back into the child. So let's review what the world literature says. So there are a total of 33 clinical studies, published papers, which show a 80% success rate. 33 worldwide papers. And if you see a review of literature, the world's first scientific paper was published from India. It was by us. We also published the 6th one. The others came from China, Italy, America, etc. So this is the world's first paper on cell therapy in autism, which we published in 2014. This was our paper, and it showed 91% of the patients improved. The second paper came from China. Here again, they showed an 88% improvement. The third paper came from the United States by Dawson, again showing 90% improvement. This another paper from the United States by Kimberly et al. Showing 90% success rate. This paper by Martinez from Mexico showing a 95% success rate. This paper from Vietnam by Thang et al. Which showed a 93% success rate. This paper from Italy, which showed a 78% success rate. Now this is a meta-analysis. This is a review of 460 patients. And at the end, in this paper, they summarize that cellular therapy is safe and that it improves patients with autism spectrum regardless of what type of cell we use. In this other systemic review by Jingyang Q from China, they looked at 325 patients, and again they said it is safe and effective. So there is enough published worldwide literature to show the effectiveness of cellular therapy. Now this is our latest paper. We had 2 papers, but I'll talk about the second paper because this was 254 patients. We use autologous bone marrow mononuclear cells. You can see the improvement in the various symptoms, in almost all the symptoms, whether it is social interaction, eye contact, attention, stereotypical behavior, aggressiveness, hyperactivity, self-injurious behavior, sitting tolerance, command following, speech, communication, all these you can see above is the percentage of improvement. And we have scales called ICAN CARS, and you can see that there was a significant improvement, 94% and 95% in these scales. Now here's something interesting. The results depended on age. So those kids who are less than 5 years, we had a 97% success rate. Between 5 to 10, it reduced to 94. Between 10 to 15, 94 again. And 15 and above, it was 91. So the earlier we intervene, the better results we are likely to get. Here again, you can see on CARS scale, again, 98, 95, 90, 91. So you can see that age affects the outcome. Now, what was the objective proof? Because one is clinical improvement. So in our study, we actually showed objective improvement. So above, this is a PET CT scan where the blue areas are the hypometabolic areas, the areas that are functioning less than normal. So you can see above all the blue. Now this is done on a Siemens machine. Below, you see 6 months later, and you can see the hypometabolic areas are gone. So this is objective proof. I'm just showing you 1 or 2 scans, but we have almost 3,000 such scans before and after that show that the brain damage, the parts of the brain that are not functioning appropriately in autism, they can be repaired. And this is proof of that. So this is on a Siemens machine, and this is on a GE machine. Again, you can see the cerebellum, blue area, hypometabolic, and below you can see that it has improved. So on 2 different sets of machines, Siemens machine and General Electric machines, both show before and after improvement. We have a total of 6 scientific publications in the results of cell therapy in autism. And now international books Medical books are introducing chapters. So in this book on recent advances in autism, there's a chapter, Stem Cell Therapy in Autism Spectrum Disorders, and they've asked us to write the chapter. So we've written the chapter for this book. Now this is data, what I showed you earlier was published. This data of 1,000 patients has been sent for publication. But just to give you an outcome, this is 1,010 patients. And again, you can see more or less similar symptomatic improvements. Again, the ICAN CAR scales, good improvement. Individual domains of ISA. And age-wise, again, you can see the same thing. Below 5 years, 89% improvement. Above 15 years, it dropped to 80%. And this is the analysis. You can see above the blue areas, the damaged areas, and below, after cell therapy, you can see that the brain has got activated. You can again see above and below. So complications. So we've had no major complications. There has been no neurological deterioration, no infection. However, one major concern is that 3% of our patients develop increased incidence of epilepsy when they already had epilepsy in the past. 10% of the patients get a spinal headache which lasts for 1 or 2 days immediately after the procedure, and there was some nausea, vomiting, local pain, etc. Now we've published this as a separate paper. People normally like to hide their adverse events. We've published a paper saying that seizures may happen as an adverse event because there is no treatment which does not have adverse events. But if you know it, you can actually manage it. So we've published this as well. Now I'll just show you a couple of videos. Just if you have little time, so yeah, we have some time. So I'll show you a couple of videos. There are three sets of patients from 3 continents. This is a child from America. Father was a cardiologist, mother is a nurse, and he's improved so much. Today, this kid is not only completely off the spectrum, this video is a little old, but he's topping in school and he's doing wonderfully well.
I couldn't get him to engage with me. I couldn't get him to give me eye contact. Over time, he started to lose a lot of vocabulary. Right around 18 months to the age of 2 years, he just slid backwards.
He would flap like that, and he would walk on his tiptoes, look at the wall and be talking to the wall. He had problems with eye contact. He'd never look you straight in the eye. He had problems with his speech. Some research and found out about neurogen. And the big question that I had in my own mind was, what is there to lose? And I could not come up with a good answer, and I said, we have to do it.
Started seeing better eye contact, definitely a difference in his engagement with us, with his sibling, his mood. He was so much calmer. Now he's all about taking his own shower. I have to just prompt him to get out, but he'll wash himself and he'll put his clothes on. Saw the PET scan images. I can't tell you the word, we were just so excited and thrilled. The areas that were hypoactive or non-active were warm. There was activity there. Ganesh has gone from the 3rd grade, 4th month reading level to a 7th grade, 1st month reading level in 5 months.
And now we have Mercy over here.
We went to different doctors, we went to different hospitals, and when I brought it up, they were like, oh, no, don't worry, it's because they are boys, they are triplets, they were premature. I would be walking out and I'm like, bye, and no child is crying, no child is waving back bye. And by then, for sure, I knew that they should be doing that. The children had this behavior of disappearing. In fact, Eric disappeared 3 times in the middle of the night. The biting, the spitting, the scratching. How are we going to stop this behavior? We went to see the neurologist, and in 5 minutes, he said, these children are autistic.
As parents, it was very traumatizing. First of all, we didn't understand what autistic means.
So I decided to really get to read a lot about autism. I remember the first time I read about stem cell. I was like, wow, this is really good.
We had a lot of questions which we asked, and we got very clear answers from Dr. Sharma.
The day of the stem cell itself came, actually I was a bit anxious, of course, but really I didn't have fear. A bit of apprehension, anxiety, of course, as a mother, but I knew they're in good hands.
We put a needle in this pelvic bone and then we take out the bone marrow, which is the fluid inside the bone. The pure stem cells, once they are ready, a thin needle is inserted into the lower back. We inject the stem cells into the cerebrospinal fluid. It flows all the way up to the brain.
Things that would have taken probably years to be accomplished in my sons, in like 8 months' time, we've really been able to come very far. Just with water.
They used to defecate on their clothes, but now they can use the toilet. We've seen a lot of improvement in terms of spitting. The tantrums have reduced. Sleeping used to be a problem before, but at the moment, he's taken to his bed, it takes a few minutes and he's asleep.
You see my son's cycle. You try to make them understand what it is to pedal, and they couldn't. But after stem cell, when we arrived in Kenya the following day and we went out, and these guys could cycle. I'm going to send you to buy tomato paste, okay? I'm going to send you to buy what?
Tomato paste.
In the shop. Where is the shop?
It's here.
Okay. So I'm going to give you...
Money.
For what?
Buy tomato lollipop. I'm going to wear my shoes. That's right.
Parents ask me, so do you really think stem cell works? And I'm like, I can see changes, I can touch, I can feel, I can smell. Of course, for me, stem cell works. I'll do it until my children get well.
So that's 2 stories. And by the way, Ricky's right here. You're going to see him. He's right here. We are short of time, so I won't talk much about cerebral palsy, but this is a paper. It works just as well in cerebral palsy. We've got 15 articles, chapters in textbooks. And that's the brain damage before in cerebral palsy. That's after. You can see the improvement. Then in intellectual disability, it works as well. We have the world's first scientific paper. We've treated more than 12,000 patients from 75 countries, total of 106 papers and 16 books. And I'd just like to share the views of our Honorable Prime Minister.
मैं जापान गया, तो जापान मेरे कार्यक्रम में मैंने एक कार्यक्रम क्या जोड़ा? मैं वहाँ एक नोबेल लॉरिएट साइंटिस्ट याकामाहा को मिलने गया। मैं इसलिए किया गया कि उन्होंने स्टेम सेल के अंदर जो रिसर्च की है, मैंने जितना पढ़ा था तो मेरे मन में आया था शायद इनकी एक खोज हमारे काम आ सकती है क्या है। हम गए तो वहाँ गए, उनसे चर्चा की और बेंगलोर के हमारे साइंस इंस्टीट्यूट के साथ आज उस दिशा में हमारा काम हो रहा है कि स्टेम सेल्स के द्वारा हमारे युवा साइंटिस्ट कुछ खोज करें।
So that is the Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi ji, talking in Parliament about stem cells. And here is the President of the United States.
Today, with the executive order I am about to sign, we will bring the change that so many scientists and researchers, doctors and innovators, patients and loved ones have hoped for and fought for these past 8 years. We will lift the ban on federal funding for promising embryonic stem cell research. Scientists believe these tiny cells may have the potential to help us understand and possibly cure some of our most devastating diseases and conditions, to regenerate the severed spinal cord and lift someone from a wheelchair, to spur insulin production and spare a child from a lifetime of needles, to treat Parkinson's, cancer, heart disease, and others that affect millions of Americans and the people who love them. There's no finish line in the work of science. The race is always with us. The urgent work of giving substance to hope and answering those many bedside prayers, of seeking a day when words like terminal and incurable are potentially retired from our vocabulary.
So my conclusion is that adult stem cell therapy that we use may be considered a safe and effective treatment option for autism, cerebral palsy, and intellectual disability. It accelerates development, reduces disability, helps in functional recovery, and improves the quality of his life. We heard the two biggest democracies in the world are India and America. You heard the Prime Minister of India speak of stem cells. You heard the President of America speak about stem cells. But now I want you to hear somebody more important than that. The child you saw in that video, he's right here, Ricky. Ricky, say a few words. Talk to the audience.
Thank you.
Say something.
Thank you, everyone. I like to say thank you for giving me the Neurogen stuff which we made.
This child could not speak. This child could not go to school. Today he's standing in front of you and giving a speech. Let's give him a big hand.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ricky. Come.
Now, it's a true honor to call Dr. Nadia Al-Saig on stage. She's our chief guest. Please, all of you all, a big round of applause for ma'am. She's the founder and director general of Senses Residential and Daycare for Special Needs. We would really like to felicitate ma'am, as Senses has been the strategic partner for ICAN. Next, we would social media. Yeah. We'll just do a bit of that. Next, we would like to felicitate MENA organization as well, as they as well are the strategic partners for ICAN. A big round of applause. Thank you so much. And now we would like to felicitate Farhan Shahid, who is from Senses and has been helping us with the entire organization of ICAN. So thanks to one and all for helping us putting this show up. Okay, now I would like to invite Dr. Nadia to say a few words.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على خير الأنام محمد المصطفى وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Good morning everyone, and I would like to welcome the International Conference for Autism and Neurodevelopmental Disorder, ICAN, Dubai 2023. It's a great honor to be a part of this event, and hope we come down with this conference with the best practice to the region and share knowledge to the latest trends on autism and neurodevelopmental disorder. And really, I would like to take the opportunity to thank you all, thank the speakers and the partners of this conference, and especially the audience for your participation. Thank you so much. Thank you.
So now we will be inaugurating our book, Treatments for Autism. As we did see in the film, it was earlier already inaugurated in English, but now we are inaugurating it in Arabic language. So ma'am would do the honors. Just to give you a brief about this book has all the therapies, treatments, all the information about autism and all kinds of newer age treatments as well in the book. You can have a copy online on our website. You can request for that, as well as we have English books that are available. So you can just send us an email on our website. Just log on to www.autismconnect.com. and you can just subscribe for the book and you will be able to get one. Thank you so much, everyone. I would really be very thankful to all of you. Thank you so much.